Oh, 1 second. Let me just get that ringing before we start this video. Oh, hello, me. What? Past me? You said that we were going to delay those Brexit checks again? Oh, I can just see this now. Looks like we have again. Shock horror. I told you this was going to happen. I told you there was no way they were going to bring in these checks. Why? Because we say it with me. They have no plan over what to actually do about these checks. They know that they have to bring these checks in eventually because every country has to have them. But they daren't bring them in because if we do, that will have big impacts on our economy. And especially now, even with inflation being higher, which it would ultimately add to. If there was not this problem with inflation, we would still be having a lot of problems. Remember, they even delayed these checks for a fifth time when previous times inflation was not the problem. It was not an issue as it is now. This ultimately, we always say, was going to be a Brexit problem. When you implement these checks, this creates delays at the border, it delays products, it increases the cost to businesses, it makes the UK more unattractive for UK or EU companies to do business with each other. And ultimately, if you're an EU company, well, you've got the rest of the EU to go and do business with. So if you lose the UK, it's not exactly a big problem, especially when you're looking at the fact that Ukraine may eventually join the EU, which will be a massive boon to you. And yet, here we are with many UK companies saying, look, EU companies don't want to do business with us because it's too difficult. And then we have to look further afield, which becomes even more expensive than it would if we did business with a UK company. And yet, according to many Brexiteers, this was why we did Brexit, because it would be easier. We would have all this opportunity for businesses to go and do business out there. That's not happened. I said, and many people back when I said last time these checks wouldn't be implemented. Oh no, that will never happen. Oh look, I was right again for a fifth time. A fifth. I didn't even realize we were at this number. I thought it was a third or fourth time these checks were going to be delayed for. No, a fifth time. So, but anyway, we're going to get into this because this is just goes to show you what an absolute omni shambles Brexit really is. But before we do that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there is the Pony Club down below. And of course, if you are a member of the Pony Club, you can now apparently gift subscriptions to other people as well. So, you know, I don't know how you do it, but apparently that's a thing you can do on YouTube now. So I'm just telling you about it. But as always, thank you very much to all the people who do help support the channel. Even if you just click the like and share button, it all helps. So let's crack on into this from The Guardian reporting for this. So UK Brexit checks on fresh food from the EU delayed for a fifth time, reports say. Brexit checks on fresh farm produce coming from the UK to the EU have been delayed for a fifth time, according to reports. And remember, these checks that come in October, they're a dry run, a test run for when the checks fully get implemented in, in January. So that would be a test for when they would come in for properly in January. And yet they daren't even bring them in because it's going to create so many more problems. At this point, this is openly really admitting, even though I don't think the Brexiteers or even the government would even dare to admit it, this is just showing how advantageous it was for us to be in the single market, to have this open and free access, to have this free movement of goods. So, the decision to suspend these plans to enforce the controls has been applied in the other direction of British exports to the EU since January of 2021, and is due to be announced imminently, according to the Financial Times. The delay is intended to give the government and exporters in the EU more time to prepare for these checks, setting Rishi Sunak on a collision course with domestic UK food producers who have long argued that it gives a free pass to continental rivals while they have to endure all checks on fresh food exports into the bloc. But according to the reports, there are concerns of the extra red tape would increase the cost of food imports to consumers and further fuel inflation, which, of course, Rishi Sunak wants to do and wants to avoid doing that at all costs. I think that's a large part why he has done this. A very large part why he has done this. He's done nothing to reduce inflation anyway. Neither him nor Jeremy Hunt have done nothing to reduce inflation. But they know that doing this would certainly increase inflation even more, and they don't do it because they know what a bad look it would be. They know what a bad look it would be. Remember, Operation Yellowhammer warned back in the day of just this thing potentially happening, which might spark food riots. So I wonder why Rishi Sunak is avoiding doing this. The decision comes just days after the government has abandoned plans to force manufacturers to label their products with the alternative to the EU's CE, the Conformity European Safety Mark. The industry representatives have obviously welcomed the delay, saying the government has made the right decision to postpone UK food retailers and hospitality businesses as consumers were in line for major disruption because many EU food processing businesses supplying to the UK are just not ready for the new requirements, said Shane Brennan, the chief executive of the Cold Chain Federation. Why? Because the government has not told them what they are actually going to do, what these new requirements are going to do. That's why just a couple of days ago, the UK government tried to bypass the EU Commission to go to individual companies and ask them what it was they wanted the UK to do, which got them in trouble with the European Commission. It's the level of this, and just realizing that there's just no plan in place for this is monumental, and it's shocking, really shocking. But remember, Brexiteers for years have been saying we don't need to bring in these checks. We'll just have a digital border. We'll do it all digitally. We don't have to have physical checks. Yes, because not having physical checks at the border is a great idea, Brexiteers. Even when we were in the single market and customs union, there were physical checks that occurred time to time just to make sure, they were bringing in what they were said they were going to do. Brexiteers just want to completely eliminate that completely. Why? Because the free market fundamentalists. But anyway, of course, he was concerned that EU producers, some of who were small producers of specialist foods such as cheese, were not even aware of the new requirements and could have led to even more shortages on shelves. Another industry source says it was a treasury purge of all the challenges that would cause disruption to the supply chain, given the sensitivity of the food market price increase in the current economic climate. Before Brexit, exporters could sell chilled food across to the EU without any paperwork because the UK was a member of the single market. And once again, people are going to remember that. Businesses are going to start saying, well, why aren't we in the single market and customs union? Remember, the Leave position was that we would remain in the single market and customs union. To quote Daniel Hannan, only a fool would leave the single market and customs union. But since the UK's departure from the EU, fresh and chilled food such as sausages and cheese, along with animal and plant products, including timber, leather, and other products, are subject to sanitary and phytosanitary checks and can only be exported with a health or veterinary certificate. Exporters from the EU have not had to endure this paperwork after the British government has failed to actually build a new PPS system or even secure land for the SPC parks to actually conduct the random physical checks. Again, it just goes to show you that there was just no system, and there is a place to do these checks, but some of them have had to be sold and shut down because they have moved on actually implementing these checks so many times. It's just beyond belief. It really is. But back to it. So the Brexit cliff edge of 2021 left British exporters of fish and many other fresh goods in chaos, with a lack of customs agents and veterinary staff to actually certify or even whether the produce was complied with EU standards. But in the UK, these Brexit checks were pushed back to 2020 on 2 occasions in 2021, and then again last year by the Brexit Opportunities Minister Jacob Rees-Mogg. In April, the government announced these checks would finally be phased in on the 31st of October and further implemented in 2023 and 2024. Remember, the October check was meant to be a test, a dry run to see if they were actual capable of doing these checks. So they're not even going to go for a test, a dry run to see if this would happen, because they know that it would be such a disaster on this. And just as the Brexiteers have actually come out and complained about keeping the European safety mark in check, they're going to come out again in this and complain about this again. I guarantee you that. Oh, they will absolutely. Government insiders told the FT that further details of these rules applying to food imports would be published very soon. Yes, very soon. Just like it was very soon back in 2020. Yeah, we're still waiting for this very soon details to be released. But the introduction would be pushed back. The driving force behind this is the need to bear down on inflation. That's why there will be a delay. There will be additional costs at the border, the FT said, quoting its sources. Well, the thing is, this inflation is only a really recent issue. It wasn't so back in 2020 or 2021, or even when Jacob Rees-Mogg himself decided not to implement them. But inflation has become more of a problem. It's not the case of inflation. It's the fact that they know these problems would be created by bringing in these checks, and that this in itself would be made to look Brexit really, really bad. And as we've constantly said, from Boris Johnson coming in as Prime Minister, from him onwards, they want to do nothing which will make Brexit look bad. They only wanted to make Brexit look as good as possible, while trying to sell it as it was a good idea. But like, keep on just showing why Brexit was a bad idea. Remaining in the single market and customs union and these checks not coming in just shows you why that was such a good position. Why remaining in the single market customs union was such a good idea and a good position to be in. It's why a lot of people voted leave, because they thought, oh, well, we'll leave the EU politically, but we'll remain in the single market and customs union. And maybe I'm not 100% happy with, the EU as a political institution, but you know what? I kind of like remaining in the single market customs union. So I'll give my vote to leave, because they believed, people like Daniel Hannan on the Leave campaign slide, who said only a fool would leave the single market customs union. So there you go. Anyway, as always, we'll see you all next time.